Well, a new stress point has emerged in the Canada-U.S. relationship. The Trump administration walking away from a long-standing military board that works on defense initiatives with Canada, claiming this country has failed to meet its spending commitments. The CBC's Aaron Collins is on this story for us from Washington. Aaron, good to have you. So what more do we know about what's happening here?
Well, we know, right, that this all involves that permanent joint board of defense. And I think the first question most journalists in D.C. and Ottawa on this story might have been trying to ascertain today is what the heck that is, right? Scrambling to answer that right now. And I think the short answer to that is that it's a group created way back in 1940 that's really, as you mentioned, focused on coordinating North American defense. It was actually created by some real political heavyweights back in the day, right? Prime Minister Mackenzie King and U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt behind the creation of this board. And while you may not have heard too much about it over the years, it's seen Americans and Canadians working together to secure the continent. One of the best examples that you can come up with for this is of course, NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, which was, it's been monitoring the airspace above Canada and the U.S. for like 70 years now. So a real good concrete example of how this board has worked together to work on continental defense.
So one of the big questions then is why is the United States pulling out? This clearly is sort of, as you've talked about sort of how far this goes back, steeped in history in terms of that relationship between Canada and the United States. But why is the U.S. saying they're out?
Well, that's the big question for sure, right? And the problem with trying to answer those questions when these kinds of policy, statements are rolled out on social media is you don't always have immediate recourse to those questions. We have reached out to the Department of Defense, Department of War down here. I haven't received a whole lot of details from them. And just a reminder that all of this is coming after Undersecretary of War Elbridge Colby posted on social media that unfortunately Canada has failed to make credible progress on its defense commitments. DOW is pausing the Permanent Joint Board of Defense to reassess how this forum benefits shared North American defense. We can no longer avoid the gaps between rhetoric and reality. Real powers must sustain our rhetoric with shared defense and security responsibility. So why would the U.S. take that position now? Well, look, it's difficult to say with any degree of certainty. We can speculate a little bit. But there have been tensions, as you mentioned earlier, between the U.S. and Canada in the area of defense recently. I mean, specifically, the Trump administration has long been bothered by NATO countries, including Canada, of not hitting their spending commitments of 2% of GDP, which I should say Canada has recently met. But obviously the U.S. would like our country to spend even more than that. Other things going on right now, there's the review of Canada's purchase of F-35 fighters. That could be an irritant for this administration. Of course, there's that Davos speech from the Prime Minister where he said there was a rupture in the global order, which is an irritant as well.
Keep a close eye, of course, on what's going to be happening later on in the summer with the CUSMA deal as well and where that stands. So all of it sort of, I feel kind of, related to one another in terms of where things are happening in terms of that relationship. I know you're going to continue to track it for us, Aaron. Thank you so much for this. The CBC's Aaron Collins for us in Washington.